Today, I have the honor of interviewing Coach Kandaka. She is a publicist, PR, promotion, management guru, working with some of the biggest names you know, like Killer Priest, RJ Payne, Jamil Honesty, Priest, and more. In addition to this, she's a life coach and has a world of knowledge and a sensitivity, spirituality that she also gives services on and helps her artists with. We're gonna bring her in, talk about her love for hip hop, the services she provides in the entertainment and music world, and as a life coach. Hey, sis.
Peace. Hi.
Peace.
Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It is,
I am very happy to be here.
and I'm really, really happy to have you on. This is really cool. It's an honor for me. You know, you're so hip hop. You love hip hop. You help hip hop artists. But in addition to everything that you do in the music and entertainment industry, you're also a life coach, right? Mm-hmm. And I want to make sure that we get a chance to talk about all that.
Okay.
In the show, I always like to kind of start back, right? And talk about how people fell in love with, in this case, hip hop, and then how they first got involved in the actual industry. And then we'll work our way up and make sure that we cover all of your many talents.
Okay.
So tell us, how did you first fall in love with hip hop and get involved?
You know, as far as I can remember, I've loved hip hop. I remember I got a whooping for loving Salt and Pepper's Push It.
Oh yeah.
So I was doing I will never forget that, but I love the song. I was so obsessed with Push It, Wild Wild West, but I was so young. Mm-hmm. And so I grew up in Denver and New Jersey. Okay. So when I would go to Jersey, I had cousins from Brooklyn, mm-hmm. and we would spend the summers sometimes in South Carolina. So this is what I always say. This is the breakdown. So I fell in love. Well, no. I liked hip hop when I heard Push It. I knew that I loved hip hop when I heard Daz Effects. Ooh. Then I knew I would be with hip hop forever when I heard Troy. Oh. And then when I heard I Used to Love Her, that renewed my vows to hip hop. When I heard J Electronica's Exhibit A and C, I knew that I would be with hip hop forever.
Wow. That's beautiful. And that's actually like a chronological walk through hip hop moments.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's really what happened. And then my whole life, I've always had friends that were MCs. So I was the only girl in the freestyle ciphers or the open mics. Yeah. So I was a poet and I loved words. So that extended to me loving bars, you know? And so I had a crush on Shaquille O'Neal when I was younger. He was a rapper. He was a rapper, mm-hmm. right? Conducting these rappers. So I had a crush on Shaq, and I memorized Shaq Diesel and Shaq Fu the Return, heart, like word for word by heart. And after that, it was crazy. So, you know, from that, he had all these dope features. Yeah. So it's like that. And then I was in love with Wu-Tang Clan. Like, to this day, I've always been a Wu baby. Yeah. So, yeah, my love is deeply rooted. So I joke and say I wasn't a girl that had a crush on a rapper and then loved hip hop. I loved hip hop first. Yeah. And then it came in, and, you know, it just happens that I connect with MCs because I love words. I love the spoken word, you know, and so it's spiritual for me. So I'm bar heavy, you know, I want to hear what you're saying. So, you know, yeah, I will forever love hip hop. I love jazz too. I say that jazz is my side chick that I spend a little bit more time with. But yeah, I love hip hop. Hip hop is the love of my life, for real.
Yeah. I love hip hop too.
Yeah.
Did you ever do like spoken word?
Yeah. So, ironically, this is like a full circle moment because in Denver, they have Brother Jeff's Cultural Cafe. And it was known as being like the hub for spoken word in Denver.
Mhm.
And ironically, Jay Electronica used to work there.
Wow.
Yeah. So I used to do spoken word. I had like these really dope poetry books. And so we have this joke because like Priest says, like, why you don't write anymore? And I said, I got writer's block. I can't write anymore. Right. And I think it's probably because I used to have like a relationship, a boyfriend. He was a spoken word artist. So he would do slam competitions.
Okay.
So he would always challenge me to write. And he's like, you got 20 minutes, bang out a poem. And I would get a poem and I would do it. And then it just came to this point where I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So I think from there, it substituted my love for lyrics with other people and getting into the spoken word with other people more. But I try sometimes in my mind, I spit bars and all the time. So yeah, but yeah, I love spoken word and just poetry and the, not just like the lyrical concept, but the historic, spiritual, historic anthropology, like all of that, the culture in it, right?
Yeah.
Because I went to school for Black Studies, so Black Studies, history, and anthropology. So for me, it's that element that I add to hip hop too.
Wow.
And I really wanted to be a professor of hip hop. I still think I want to do that one day. Because I think it's really a really dope opportunity. One of my professors, he used to integrate hip hop into my lessons.
Yeah.
So my research papers, he would find a way to say, okay, well, I'll give you credit if you integrate hip hop into it.
Yeah.
So it would be breaking down KRS bars or like I had to do a paper on self-destruction and stuff like that. So it's always been there. But I didn't realize it until recently how much hip hop has been so significant a part of my life. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. I think you'd be a dope hip hop professor.
I would love it. You know, I would be like Aunt Viv in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like she was. Because, you know, now is the time. You see Ninth Wonder and all these people teaching hip hop in universities. So I'm like, oh, this is the moment. You know, you have Chuck D and Ice-T curating these dope documentaries, Nas even. So I'm like, I think that there is an avenue for me in this space, you know, beyond that. And I have some ideas as far as documentaries and books that I want to produce. So yeah, absolutely.
You should pursue that. I know exactly what you're talking about. The stuff that Nas is doing.
I love it.
His video music box for the second time. Him and just like you mentioned, Ninth Wonder with beat production. I had Wordsworth on here.
Yes.
He did a class on hip hop.
I love his episode because his episode that you did, it really resonated with me. Because I love the you know, some people say they're a hip hop historian and they just want to say, you know, in 1988, you know, Slick Rick put out, you know, mine is deeper because I want to think about the culture at the time, what was going on with the people, what was going on with New York, what socially, politically was going on. I could tell you that. So, you know, for me, I want to dig into that and see hip hop as more just a genre. There's a reason why this culture hits the whole globe, you know? So I want to get into that because I think that hip hop has always been the voice of the voiceless, right? So that's how it resonates worldwide.
Yes. No, I love that. And it's the right time to do it. When you take into consideration when self-destruction came out and what was happening in New York City, when you take into consideration when we're all in the same gang came out and what was happening in LA, when you take into consideration what was happening with the police in LA when NWA made straight out of Compton, right? And like, so like all those things, that's the anthropological.
It's all tapped in. So yeah, that's how I see it, how it all comes together. Because at the backdrop, here I am studying like the Central Park Five, which is the exonerated five. So
Yeah,
at that time, you think about what was the background to the music at that time.
yeah.
There's so many different political things that have happened, social things
Hmm.
from the Black Panther Party
Yeah.
and the Black Power movement.
Hmm.
And people don't realize that hip hop became the extension of that,
Right.
right? Because now you have these individuals, you have these Black men that are not in a position to have an organization like they had before with the Black Panther Party.
That's right.
So now it's like, what do? We take it to the streets. We're in the park. So you see stories of Mos Def and other people starting in the park. Hip hop
Hmm.
started in the park for real, right? They have these ciphers because the ciphers used to be in the church or the community center. So now you take it to the streets, you put it in
Hmm.
bars, and that ties into when you think about the Bill Clintons and the George Bushes and the Dolores Tuckers and all these people that had issues with hip hop because they knew they couldn't contain the voice of the youth through the music. Oh, that's good. I got
That's
chills with that
good.
myself. Woo! Right? So they couldn't contain the voice.
Hmm.
Before you had political leaders getting assassinated with hip hop,
Yeah.
it was a bounty of young men and women saying what's going on in the
Yeah.
communities, saying about not only did I sell drugs, but my whole family died of drugs.
Hmm.
So it's like this double-edged sword where I've seen my whole family taken out through death,
Hmm.
jail, all of that. But I had to sell it to get to where I am now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, things like the impact of the Nation of Islam, the 5% Nation of Islam on hip hop, especially on the East Coast, right?
Yeah, so
Um,
exactly. My father, um, so I have two fathers, but my father was in the Nation of Islam.
mm,
So that sprinkled onto me to understand that as
yeah,
well, because I had Nation of Islam in me, and then I had 5%ers, that were my cousins. So then you have, Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan and the father and all these teachings that
mhm,
I already have in my mind. So when I hear it on bars, it
mhm.
resonates. So I'm like, oh, these brothers aren't playing. So I
Yeah,
say now these kids don't even understand being Wu-Tang fans. They know Supreme
yeah,
Mathematics and they don't even know. You got kids in the suburbs saying peace God and
that's right.
saying like today's mathematics. And it's like, do you know what you're saying? This is not just some Wu-Tang
Yeah,
stuff,
exactly.
right? So, and I always joke about that and saying that I know science or some mathematics and things that I know is because of hip hop.
Hmm.
So, yeah, it's all there. It's
Yeah,
all foundational things. Even people that were into like Dr. York teachings and all of that stuff, like that's all embedded into the
absolutely.
culture.
Malachi Z. York, that's it.
Yes,
There's a period of hip hop where you feel his presence. There's
yes,
the Nation of Islam.
yeah,
There's icons such as Public Enemy and the impact the Public Enemy had in the late 80s or early 90s. You had to go to
yeah,
New York. You would go to New Jersey. The medallions, the little African
yes,
medallions. Come on, like
yes,
this all happened,
yeah,
and it was hip hop, but it was also these different movements through hip hop. And then you've got Tupac and the Black Panther movement, right?
yes.
He's like the second coming of that.
He is
His
that. Yes,
mom, right?
yes,
The impact of his mom.
yes,
So all of this,
yeah.
you know.
Pac was the uncontained version of it. Like,
Mm,
there's a documentary called The Bastards of the Party, and they talk about how these are the children of the Black Panther Party that didn't know where to go or what to do. So they became Bloods and
that's
Crips,
right.
you know? And the foundation wasn't about killing, that wasn't the objective, but they needed to police their communities. They needed that brotherhood, that family, because they didn't have it with the Black Panther Party anymore. So now you're seeing, you know, Bloods, Crips, GDs, all this stuff happening within the communities when the intentions wasn't for it to be about violence and killing each other. But we could get into that because that's a
Well,
whole nother
and the
episode.
systematic destruction of the Black Panther Party,
Yes,
which was a political movement,
absolutely,
and it was destroyed,
absolutely,
right? So there's that. But we could talk about that all day.
all day.
But we got more to unpack.
Yeah.
We talked about how you love hip hop and how you also started as a spoken word artist. And then now we got a little bit more into the academics and some of the passions that you pursued in your degree after high school. At what point do you start working with artists and making things happen, connecting people to opportunities, people to people?
Yeah. So in college, they used to really encourage me to get into the radio station, and start my own radio station. And I didn't want to do it, because I didn't think I had it at the time, but I got in the habit of organizing some of the Black Studies conferences, and there would be artists associated with that. So we had like Dead Prez, The Last Poets, and things of that nature, where I had to organize some of those events. And this is so deep because I just really thought about the fullness of how this all came together. To give a segue before I get into this part of it, when I was younger, my mom used to date this guy. They were engaged for a long period of time. His sons had a group. One of the sons managed their group as well. He went on to be Brian McKnight's personal assistant.
Wow.
Right? So when I would see him, he would always tell me things. I would ask him questions about the industry, like what is it like and all this stuff. Later, he went on to be Jennifer Hudson's manager. He still is Earth, Wind, and Fire's manager, and he manages Raphael Sadiq.
Wow.
So when I was younger, I didn't get it at the time, but there would be times like Raphael or Tony would be at the crib or come over, or I'm around Earth, Wind, and Fire, and I'm not really getting how much of a big deal this is, right? So fast forward in college, I'm organizing these events where Dead Prez is coming up to campus, The Last Poets, all of these different spoken word poets are coming from Def Poetry, Georgia Me, all of them are coming up. And so I'm like, So what happened is, I don't know if you're familiar with Pastor John Gray. Yeah. He is all on Instagram, all that stuff. So I used to work on his team. Okay. He is a singer as well. So I met him in New Jersey while he was doing his plays and music and all of that. And we became really cool. I wanted to be his personal assistant. And he's like, him and his partner said, no, we want you to manage the street team. Okay. Right? I said, I don't want to do that. I want to be like behind the scenes. They're like, no, you have this way of like hyping things up, organizing people, mobilizing people. You're going to be in charge of the street team, and you're going to work with radio stations to make sure that we have they have our singles, our music, and retailers to make sure that they have physical copies of the CDs, merch, all of that. I'm like, I don't want to do that. So
this is the old school street team. There's an old school street team. That's how they used to make it happen. That's how you blow something up.
So in college, I'm still doing this while I'm still in school. I had another friend that worked for Bad Boy and another friend that worked for Def Jam. And we were on campus in the middle of nowhere doing street team stuff. Wow. The only difference is I wasn't in the hip hop realm yet, but John Gray loves hip hop. So people don't know that about him, but it was always behind the scenes that I would be working with music. So the thing is, I would meet these celebrities like Dave Hollister, the singer, is like one of my favorite singers. So we were stranded at the airport. I spent some time speaking with him, and the whole time I'm talking about John Gray CD. Yeah. You think like this is the moment you meet one of your favorite singers, you would be talking to them about something else, right? I'm like, here's John Gray's CD. He's a new artist. He's coming out. You're going to love them. Boom, boom, boom. a year later, they see each other at the Dove Awards, which is like a Christian-based awards.
Okay.
He said, you got this person on your team that she is it, right?
It came full circle. Mm.
So at this time, it's still like, oh man, I can do this music thing, right? So it cut off because he got more into the ministry element, you know, and stopped the singing portion of it. So during that time, I focused more on my life coach background. But in the background, I had many MCs that were artists that I would promote their stuff, promote their projects. And I just did it out of love, you know, but it was like, oh man, people know about the music because of that. So I'm seeing these people online that I'm cool with or follow me, and they're like, yo, you put me on to so-and-so. I know this artist because of you. And I would always hear that. So I'm just like, okay. During the pandemic, something happened where it was like, okay, we're going to take this hip hop element a little bit more seriously. So as people started asking me to be a part of like hip hop shows and different hip hop podcasts, it was like behind the scenes, but they're like, no, we want to work with you, you know? And so the pandemic opened the doorway for me to work with Killer Priest. Wow. So all this came together. It wasn't planned, but it was these little moments in time. Like one of my friends said, you have like these high moments, these high crazy, like celebrity like moments. And then you go back to your normal life, your normal way of doing things. And then it's like, oh, it's no big deal. You know, I just did that. It's cool. But it's like, now it's all full circle. So
the Killer Priest was like the first big name artist that you started working with?
I would say so. Like Priest is, to this day, I mean, it's no disrespect to everybody else. I love everybody else, right? But Priest is a legend, right? So Priest, Sons of Man, you know, like
Wu-Tang Clan.
Wu-Tang Clan. Wu-Tang Clan background, you know, heavy mental, you know, even though I tell people, you know, he has so many more albums outside of heavy mental. Like, it was a breakthrough moment. And let me tell you about how I always knew that I would work with Priest, right? I knew that I would always be like connected or associated with Priest since I was 18 years old. How would I know that? Because when I get visions a lot with everyone that I work with before I work with them. So I would always get visions like, I feel like I know Killer Priest, like I'm going to work with him one day. I always knew that, right? So, you know, me being a Jay Electronica fan, people always say like Jay Electronica is like a Killer Priest, like baby, or he has elements of him. So one day I was in a Jay Electronica Discord and someone said, yo, you gotta watch this Doggy Diamonds interview that he did with a Killer Priest. He's talking about Jay Electronica. You should watch it. So I watched it, and you know, Priest was giving Jay Electronica flowers. You know, most people want to pit them against each other and have beefs, and Priest is like, "Yo, I have love for the brother. I think he's dope." You know, so I think from there, it connected me to start like watching more of Priest's lives. So the first time I start watching his lives, and then he's like, always knows who everyone is when they come in his life. He's like, so this is somebody new in my life, like Coach Kandaka. Like, who is this person? Yeah, he spotted me. We laugh about it because he couldn't say my name right. So he was like, he was looking at the live and he's like, oh, okay, Coach Kendra, okay. And so people were like, yo, my friends that saw it, they said, why you don't correct him and say how your name? I said, it's Killer Priest. So I'm not gonna say, yo, you're saying my name wrong.
Right.
So it happened for like about a week that I would come in the lives and he'd be like, yo, Coach Kanene. Like, you know, he would just say whatever. And then so finally one day I was like, I said, it's Kandaka. And I really like put it out for him. He was like, okay.
Yeah.
So we had became cool from me watching his lives and everything like that. And then he said that there was some things that he wanted to work on. I was like, I know how to do that. So then I did it like one thing, and he was like, okay, you know how to do this. And then so I did that. And then it was like, okay, booking people for interviews or people that he wanted to reach out to be on his podcast or podcast. I was like, I could call them. And so it just started from there, building up to me moderating stuff on his podcast or podcast. And it evolved from there. So then it opened the door for other MCs to like see me or to work with other MCs to kind of be a liaison. So if they want to send him beats, they'll send them to me, and then I check out the beats and say like, okay, is this something that he'll listen to? And then just like connecting the dots on a different level. So that's how it really started. But still, I'm just thinking like, I'm cool with priests, so I'm doing this, to help priests out.
Right.
But it wasn't until I think with RJ, like I started becoming cool with RJ, is when he was like, take this seriously.
RJ Payne for people who are connecting the dots. You know RJ, so you're just like RJ. She also is the publicist and does a lot of different work for RJ Payne.
Yeah. So the element, I know I just kind of segue into that. I don't know if you have more questions about the transition.
This is dope, and that'll be organic. I mean, your career is fascinating. You're fascinating, and I'm sure anybody who is listening or hears this later, these are the people that people listen to and have on their playlists and are serious artists that have incredible lyrics. And the fact that you're there working with them and that you're a part of their career is fascinating,
Yeah, I still don't get it. Like sometimes I'm like, why are people DMing me every day asking me for RJ Payne interviews? Like, why is this happening? So being on the podcast, I always have to say that interchangeably because some people might not know. So Priest doesn't call it a podcast. It's the podcraft, right? And we're on the rocket. So, so I moderated the podcraft. And so there are MCs that watch all the time. I don't know who they are, but sometimes later on they'll hit me up and they'll say, yo, I saw you in the chat. I know you from the, Priest's podcraft. So when RJ Payne's Bars on I-95 freestyle came out, insane.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm all into bars and blown away from the bars. So I made a comment about it, and I think I quoted a bar from it. And from there, we started following each other.
Wow.
So it was like maybe one day he liked something of mine or made a comment, and I was just like, yo, I think you're so dope. Lyrically, you're so dope, right? And so he was like, thank you. I'm a fan of yours as well.
Wow. So he already knew the work you were doing.
I said, what?
You're like, what?
I promise you. I did. I said, who sent you? I said, what do you mean? What do you mean? And he said, I'm a fan of yours as well. And I'm like, what? And so he showed me that he really watched the show.
He knew,
He knew who I was. And then I just saw an interview yesterday where someone asked, like, how did you start working with Coach?
Yeah.
And he said he had been watching me for over time.
Yeah. And
hearing my name. And so he already knew who I was before we interacted. Cool. So he's like, I'm a fan of yours. So I used to watch RJ back when he was a battle rapper.
Wow.
He did the MTV battle rap in 2003. So in my dorm room, I used to watch his battle rap during summer school, like faithfully, like, yo, he's ill. I want him to win.
Yeah.
So people don't know Rain Man. I always say Rain Man got abducted by aliens. And he is now an animal alien person that came back in the form of RJ Payne.
Wow.
So now imagine in 2003 and it's 2023 and now I'm on RJ Payne's team.
Wow.
And so it was one of those things where instantly it was like, we're going to be cool. We're going to work together. But it was like a year later that we officially did it.
Got it.
So he said, Ice-T told him, like, you need to like assemble your team and like get your team tight because all these dope things are happening for you. So he's like, you've been there already, like supporting me. So let's just make this official and like get it done.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just happened from that.
That is so dope. And I mean, you've got more artists, but recently I interviewed Jamel Honesty, who has a dope new album, and I want to talk about that and how that came about.
Yeah, so similar situation. I told you that things always happen before. I saw Jamel Honesty's page one time on Instagram because I was cool with other artists that he works with, whether he does their beats, because people don't know he's an ill beat maker and producer, right? So it's funny because I became cool with so many people around him. They would send me their music and have me check their music out, give feedback. Sometimes I would share their music. So it's like one day I saw his page and I was just going through his page and I saw that we followed each other but never spoke. So I'm just like, yo, he's dope, you know, or whatever, but no communication. So it's just one day I get a DM. It's like, peace. So I've been like checking you out and I don't know how, but I feel like you're supposed to help me, right? So yes, he said, and which is crazy. I said, yo, this is crazy because I saw your page. In my mind, I said, y'all are gonna work together one day. It always happens that way. So he said, I was led, I know we've never had a conversation, but I was led that I'm supposed to work with you. He said, I don't know what capacity that you could help me, but I have a project coming out called The God's Honest Truth. I want to send it to you. Can you listen to it? Sit with it. And this is crazy because at the time he had, one of his children were sick and he was saying like, this is, I really knew. I said, yo, he's really serious. Like he's at the hospital with his child thinking about this right now of working with me. And I could just hear the passion where he's like, this is a different project that I've ever done, right? I am very sensitive and protective about this project, but I feel like you could help me. Listen to the project and tell me what you think. I sat with the project for a little bit and I said, yes.
It's a beautiful.
So, yeah. So he said, what can we do? So it's like, I want you to do the PR and the rollout for this album. So, yeah. And it was all divinely designed because I had a moment where I said I didn't want to work with artists anymore. Because, you know, there's so many elements of the industry that get weird, you know, and me being like a woman and I'm a little bit on the softer side of Sears, you know. I'm not like this aggressive type of person, you know. So I feel that the artists that I work with have to be like spiritual people of integrity, people that really operate on a different frequency.
And aren't going to mess up your energy.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You've got a life, you're moving through life like all of us are. You know, you're good and you don't need to come in and messing it up.
Yeah. So let me tell you a deep thing about why I really wanted to work with this project. In November, my dad passed away suddenly. He fainted and had a heart attack.
Wow.
And so even though they say that he passed away of a heart attack, I believe that he died of a broken heart because he was the most loving man that I knew and the most giving man that I knew. But as a child, I remember him like just, there was like a sadness, you know, and with men, no one really cares about the sadness of men.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, shut up, suck it up. You
Yeah.
provide.
Can't cry.
Yeah,
Can't
you
complain.
can't cry, you provide, you work, you keep it moving.
Mm.
So that was a radical thing. I've always been like an advocate for healing and work and all that stuff, but I had a soft heart for men.
Yeah.
Because I knew that women, we have that space.
Yeah.
We have spaces, we have circles. We can say we're still carrying trauma from a boy throwing sand in our face in kindergarten. And everybody's like,
Yeah.
oh, girl, we feel you. We know. But if a man says that he's still devastated by a broken heart from 2 weeks ago, oh, you need to get over it. You know, let that go. You know, men don't have space like that.
Yeah.
So
and women are really good communicators. Women are good communicators. They build friend circles, and they explore emotions that men don't do that for whatever reason.
Yeah.
You know, we hang out with each other and never talk about anything personal, and have, you know, go to the game or listen to some music or shut up, never open up. We're really good about getting that feedback, getting things out, getting advice, having that circle. It's, you know, I'm not sure why, but it is. So you got the societal pressure, right?
Yeah.
Condition. Yeah, that's a good word. Condition.
It's conditioned because even when some boys, especially like in the Black and Latino community, you know, when you cry, they say, you know, suck that up. Don't cry. Little boys, you know, they're conditioned to suck it up, and they're like, be a man. He's 3. Why does he have to be a man now? He's 3. Let him be a boy, you know? Men that grew up in single parent households, they are conditioned to take care of their moms and carry the weight of financially providing for their moms when they're very young. They carry these burdens that are not their burdens to have. You know, women, we go through it too, but it's a different scale with men, you know? So men, you know that your boy is going through it, but some might be like, yo, you want a beer? You want some weed? You want this? You know, something different that is not a conversation. It's not what you need. It's something to like pacify you, to numb you. So some get caught up in women. So that's how they numb the pain. So now with the pandemic, you have men coming out like, yo, I messed up. I got to get this off. You know, I got to get this out. So for me, I've always been the girl that has been around the guys that they tell me their relationship stuff. They tell me what's going on. So now I'm that same person. I just have a bigger platform to be able to speak on behalf of men. So with Jamel and his project, it's like, yo, this is something that men need. This is something hip hop needs. I'm like, this is going to be a project that breathes. It's not going to be one of those projects that is like, oh, that's that boom bap, you know, get in them bars. No, this is a project that it might be years from now that somebody might play it and be like, yo, the story about your dad forgiving your father, the story about, you know,
that song Reflections,
full of reflections. You know, he talks about, you know, contemplating his life, you know, but he has his children, he has his relationship with God. There are all these elements that men go through. So all the artists that I work with, they all have their own way of really unpacking things. With RJ, like RJ Payne.
He
RJ Payne. RJ Payne. He lost his mother when he was 10 years old, and then his brother, and then so he has different pains and things that he speaks about. With Priest, he's had family members that he's lost along the way. He lost his mom around this time last year, 6 months after, not even 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 weeks after he came out with a Whole Mother project. So I'm surrounded by artists that are communicating through their art, through the music, through their beats, you know, and so, yeah, it's all divinely aligned. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing all that. Those stories are fascinating. Um, that touched on something that I wanted to make sure that we got out there. You
Yeah.
work very closely with these artists. We've
Yeah.
talked about Killer Priest, RJ Payne, Jamil Honesty. Um, if somebody was interested in working with you, having you do the things you do,
Mm-hmm.
publicist, PR, digital strategy, management, promotions,
Mm-hmm.
um, how do they go about doing that? Is there a vetting process? What's the right
Yeah.
people to contact you and see if they're if they're a good fit for what you bring to the table?
Yeah. So before I used to just post it on my social media and just be like, hey, you want to work with me? Sign up here, click this link. This is the payment process.
Yeah.
But now I've been having Zoom sessions, really breaking it down, speaking to the artists. What is your project? What are you working on? Because for me, I just don't want to be one of those people that have artists under me that or I work with that I don't believe in what they do. But because they pay me, that I'm just gonna be like, yeah, I love it. No, I have to feel it because I'm a hip hop head first,
Yep.
you know. So it has to resonate with me, and I have to think about, is this somebody that I want to represent? You know, because anytime something happens, people are like, oh, you know your boy, you know your boy, you know, you see your boy do this or
You're
that.
associated to
Yeah.
it.
So um, so yeah, what I do is typically say a similar process when people want to work with RJ Payne or they want to interview Jamil Honesty, like they'll send me a message on Instagram.
Okay.
I like Instagram better than emails because it gives me an opportunity to go through your page and check you out. And then we set up a Zoom call and then we talk about your objectives, what you want to work on. And then the process from there, I present you with a proposal.
Yeah.
And then the proposal, if it works for you, then that's how we work together.
That's good.
And it's, yeah, and I work with producers as well. There are podcasters, like popular podcasters that I help behind the scenes as well with their content and strategy for planning stuff. So it's like, yeah, if it's within the umbrella of music and hip hop or jazz or content, like we could definitely work together. I just want it to be an organic, authentic relationship. And it's not just we're working with each other because I want to get paid and you want growth. You know, I want it to be beneficial where I don't like being in spaces that I don't add value to. So even if I'm working a job, if it's a relationship, if it's friendships, anything, if I'm not adding value, I can't be in those spaces. It's not about cutting people off because what they don't bring me, but for me, I have to thrive and be in spaces of value because I care about that. You know, I care about the work. Hip hop music is very personal. So I treat it like it's a Basquiat or a Keith Haring piece. Like, you know, this is serious work we're talking about. So yeah, just send me a DM and say that you're interested, and then I send you a link for us to organize time to talk via Zoom.
That's beautiful. Yeah. In addition to everything that you do in the space of hip hop, publicity, promotion, public relations, strategy management with big names like Killer Priest, RJ Payne, Jamil Honesty, and more. You're also a life coach, a certified holistic life coach. Talk to us about that journey. How you got involved in that and what that all encompasses.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, when we were talking before, you said, I'm sure you've probably always been connected since you were a child. So I've always been a very spiritually inclined child. So when I was younger, my family knew that I had like visions or a prophetic gift on me. So at the time, it was known that I was going to be like a prophetess or a minister or something like that.
Yeah.
And so, when I was a teenager, a lot of pastors and people would say, oh, yeah, it's on her.
Mm.
She's going to be a spiritual leader. By the time I got to college, I was more focused on like counseling people and helping people through their problems than doing my homework. This is so
Yeah,
bad.
yeah,
But
but that's
it's,
like that's your gift. That was your gift.
yeah,
And people, and that's where you could give that gift and people were getting something from it,
yeah.
which is better than some class that you need to do some assignment for,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I wasn't getting paid for it, but people would buy me smoothies at the cafe because I was a heavy, hardcore vegan.
Mhm.
So I never could eat the food in the cafeteria. So they said, "Well, we'll buy you a smoothie.
Right.
Like, can you just talk to me about my problems?" So my professor used to tease me about it because he wanted me to go off and be like this Black Studies professor. And he's like, "You want to be a life coach?" So it started because I interned for a life coach during the summer. So I used to do copy for her clients. And they say, "You're a really good writer and you write inspirational pieces. We're going to use you like the ghostwriter for our emails." So I was writing these
Wow.
emails to their clients, this is like six-figure $1 million brands, and I'm ghostwriting their messages to their clients. So that's kind of what started, and watching like the Iyanla Vanzants and all of that, and the Oprah and all of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's where it started. But I really wanted to be a minister. But then there were so many people that were like, you have so many different faiths that interact with you,
Mm.
because I had a Muslim father. I grew up in a Christian home.
Mm.
In college, I went through this whole Black African experience
Yeah.
where I'm trying to like learn stuff. And then so it was just a whole experience of knowing that I know that I'm supposed to be a leader and do something more.
Mm.
So the coaching thing came into play. And so that's what really put me in a position where I went through the certifications and chose to do different things instead. Yes.
Tell us about the certifications, the certification process, the different areas, because I'm simplifying it,
Yeah.
right? I'm kind of doing a bite size that everybody can get, which is certified life coach.
Yeah.
But there's more to that, right? There's other certifications and other things that you have studied and that you work in. Can you unpack that a little bit? Beyond this,
Yeah.
that's the easy way to say it.
It's
It's
the
certified life
easy
coach, but
way.
it's more.
Yeah, it's more. So I have di different modalities of the coaching practice. So it did start that I went through ministry training and ministry development because I wanted to go to seminary at first. So then it transitioned instead that I got certified as an interfaith counselor. So from there, it's like, okay, that's cool, but I want to do a little bit more on a holistic level. So there is the Integrative Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and they're a very popular holistic health and wellness program. So I went through their year certification process. So it's like all these top holistic health leaders, Deepak Chopra, Andrew Wild, all these leaders are your
Wow.
instructor. And so, yeah, I went through that program and got certified with that. And then I went on to get a neuroscience coaching certification. So that helped me coach people in relationships, spirituality, and wellness from a neuroscience space. So if you see a lot of my videos, I'm consumed with the mindset,
Mm.
all about the mind. And so that element plays into it. So then, yeah, there's Reiki and shamanic coaching licenses and certifications that I have as well. And some people, they don't really know how to hone all those together because it's like, what do
But
you do? You have
there.
all this. Yeah.
Mhm.
So for me, I just said it was integrative, holistic wellness that I integrate into the coaching. And so now they know, but they don't know. My clients, they get it too.
Right.
But yeah, it's just something that I said I have to find a way that's authentic to me. What I say is holistic wellness and spiritual empowerment. That is what I do. Outside of the music, that is like my core mission. And then helping individuals foster the relationship within themselves, others, and God, but doing that on a holistic level. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's awesome. So if somebody's listening to this and they're like, I need some Coach Kandaka, right? I love her energy,
Everybody
right?
needs
I love
some Coach
her
Kandaka.
energy. I need someone to talk to it's different than just, whatever it is, going to church or going to mosque. I need something that's a little bit more taps into energy, diet, shadow work, right? I hear that a lot, right?
Shadow work is the big thing. People talk about shadow work, trauma, you hear the narcissist and you hear all these type of words that people are talking about. That is like the key words, right? But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off because I know you were setting it up to say.
I said the key word. I said shadow work, and you were like, "Let's go."
Yeah, because what I'm moving from, and my father passing changed this for me. Where I said, I don't want to do like this Instagram meme type of, oh, I'm living my soft life and self-care and all this. No. I don't want the facade of it, because it's like a lot of people are doing this right now because it sounds good on social media. And it's like, get the bag and self-care and live the soft life. But it's like, is your mind right? I don't think people realize on a global scale, we were all traumatized.
Yes.
For the last 3 years.
Yeah. People don't talk about it enough.
They don't talk about it enough. So the way that we show up, the way that we address each other, we cut people off now. We have no more collective experiences anymore because we were used to being separate, It's like now everybody's about themselves. I'll cut you off. I don't need you. Relationships are not authentic anymore. It's just hit and go. Nobody doesn't want to be married anymore. We don't want long-lasting relationships. We're falling out with everybody. It's like, cut everybody off, right? So I know about cutting everybody off because I am a hermit and I love being by myself. And anybody will tell you, she goes in her zone where she doesn't want to be around anybody. But I know that you cannot survive that way, right? You need touch, you need experience, you need each other to like love up on each other and to speak life into each other, right? So there's this thing that's happening globally right now where people are not addressing the mental health element that the pandemic did on a lot of people. And now we normalize it. Before, back in the day, it's like, you don't tell people you have depression. Now it's like, I'm depressed, I have anxiety. Yeah, it's just like, yeah, I ordered it, I supersized it, and give me dessert. Like, let me order a side of depression and supersize that with childhood trauma. That's how we talk about it. Like, it's no big deal, but it's like, I feel like the universe is on a different frequency. And I don't want to get like super deep and spiritual, but you begin to see like the separation of people and who are the really righteous people versus the people that have done a really good job of carrying the illusion of being righteous, right? Then somebody say, well, what is being righteous? It's not even about religion. It's just about how we live and how we show up for each other, how we choose to support each other, and so there is a big problem going on right now where it's like a lot of people need more therapy. And I'm an advocate of therapy, but what I'm not, there's an element of therapy I don't like sometimes, because there are therapists that create trauma bonds with their clients, where their clients are in therapy for 10, 20 years over the same issue, and there's no transformation.
Wow.
To me, that's a problem.
Yeah.
If I'm paying you and I'm coming to you every week, you shouldn't hold space for me every week for 20 years to talk about my daddy issues. At what point does the healing begin? At what point can I live my life outside of this narrative that we've created, right? Who would you be without the daddy issue, right? So that's why I said, I don't live. Yeah. Who would you be without your narrative, right? So for me, I have a clean slate. I don't have resentment and say, oh, well, my biological father wasn't there, or my mom hated on me growing up, and this and that, and I didn't have good relationships with women, or no. I don't carry any narrative anymore of the past, because every day is new mercies and new opportunities to heal, to create a new narrative, if you didn't have fatherhood, okay, we'll develop friendships or brotherhoods or mentorship with brothers that do what you do. Or if there's a man that you aspire to connect with, reach out to him and connect with him that way. If you didn't have good relationships with men or women, create relationships, healthy, non-sexual relationships with righteous people that you can be cool with, right? Because some of us, we miss opportunities because there are some people that were sent to help us heal, but we mess it up because we get in urgent relationships with them, or we make it something that it wasn't supposed to be. Maybe you weren't supposed to be in an intimate. Maybe this person was sent here to help you feel nurturing and love. Your mom wasn't there, but you'll never know now, because our trauma and our issues didn't experience that. So while I am an advocate of therapy, I'm about rapid transformation and not dependent relationships with your therapist, with your spiritual advisor, and really being an advocate for self, right? The testimony is deep. I can share this real quick, right? A few years ago, I had went through this serious level of depression, what I thought was normalized. I thought it was normal to be yeah, I thought about not being here. Doesn't everybody? And they're like, well, how much did you go into that thought process? So I'm like, I've had days where I really thought about how much money would I need for a funeral, right? So my mom wouldn't have to pay for my funeral. And they're like, honey, that's not normal, right? And so it took this moment, this breakdown moment, where I started going through therapy and all of that stuff. And then people would say, why is she here? She has light and wisdom, and she has such a positive outlook on life. Why is she depressed? Why is she here? Why is she talking about ending her life? And then it got real, because they were like, oh, you want to end your life? You can't go home now until you talk to us about that. And I said, do I really want to end my life, or do I want this cycle of pain to stop? We don't want to end our lives. It's the cycle of pain that we've experienced that we want to end. We want new possibilities of life and love. We don't want to feel the childhood trauma or pain anymore. But because we haven't been given the tools to decipher the difference with that, we say we want to end it all, not knowing that around the corner is a brighter day, that stuff could be a testimony to someone else. So now when I tell people that I love them, people are like, Kandaka, you can't tell people you love them because they're strangers. But I never want people to not experience love. I want everyone to feel heard in this life. And that is sincere, right? So for me, that's what it's about in looking the mindset of how we operate, because everything is in the mind. You change our narrative with our mindset.
Woo! Thank you. If people want to reach out to you, if somebody, wants you as Coach Kandaka, what's the right way for them to do that? What's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so similar to my clients, like music clients, now we're not doing it the same way where you could just go on my website and pay for services. I want to talk to you, right? I want to get to know you. So send me a DM and then we can set up some time to talk and explore the options, because you have to be coachable. Like some people want coaching. I'm not here to like do my magic and bippity boppity boo on you. I really want to make sure that you're in a place where you're able to receive the transformation, because I could talk to you and give you advice all day, but it's about you saying yes to yourself and you getting to the why for yourself. I'm just here to be the median. So just send me a DM on Instagram at Coach Kandaka, and I will send you like the link to go through the proper process of that.
That's awesome, man. And you've been dropping jewels. As we start the wrap, I just want to wrap it on some fun stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk to us about your appearance on Seeking Sister Wife. You were on an episode of Seeking Sister Wives. I guess it should be plural, right? Talk to us about that episode, and that's unique. I mean, not everybody's done that. That's a lot of fun. Tell us about that.
So I am
I dig.
You're very good. So I am I'm an efficient. So I can do your baby blessings. I can marry you. I can do all of that. And so Nick, which was the husband from the Seeking Sister Wives show, I went to high school with him.
Wow.
And so for me, he's always said that I've been his like life coach and spiritual advisor. And then when I start working with Killer Priest, he's like a big Wu-Tang fan. So we had been in communication during that time. And so he's like, I can't tell anybody, but I'm on this reality TV show. And they told me that I could select a life coach or advisor to work with us and someone to perform our ceremony.
Yeah.
I want you to do it. So he's like, I know this is crazy because, this goes completely against the norm as far as marriage and all of that stuff.
Right.
So behind the scenes, I spent time with them. I met the wives.
Yeah.
And the family.
He gets married to three women?
Three. Mm-hmm. So he was already with two of them, but it was like one more that they were bringing into the equation.
Okay.
So I was already familiar with the dynamic, and he was like that in high school. Okay. Like where you knew that he was going to be the guy that had multiple wives, but it wasn't, I don't know. It's so deep. Yeah. But yeah, so
he had multiple girlfriends.
Yeah. At prom, at dances, he would bring more than one date.
Okay.
Yeah. And they were all cool with that. Because it's just weird. Yeah. And so it's just like, I don't get it, but I understand. I think the only reason that I was cool with it is because I do know people that are in open marriages, right? Whether it's for spiritual reasons or whatever. So I'm like, I have to spend time with you all and see what this is about. Like, are you doing this for reality TV? I really need to see what it's about. So even the cast was like, out of all their years of doing this show, they never saw people that really loved each other and had it set up that way. Wow. So yeah, I would do like coaching calls behind the scenes, talk to them about like, communication, conflict, stuff of that nature. Yeah, and I did their wedding. I didn't tell anybody about it.
Got it.
So
You're like, there's probably some sort of like maybe non-disclosure agreement until it's out, right? Until the episodes come out, and then you did it all. You had the secret, I guess, but then it's on TV.
yeah, I didn't tell anybody except like maybe I told maybe two or three people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told Priest. He's like, "What? Who are you?"
He's your fan. No, hey, he's your fan.
Yeah, he's like, "Who? What?" And so then yeah, I did it, and then I didn't know when it was gonna come out, and it was literally the week of my birthday.
No,
My episode came out.
good.
So I'm getting calls and DMs and everything. You're on TV. I know this is you. And so my sister calls me. She's like, "So can you marry me and my boyfriend?" And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, I saw your little episode." So yeah, it was so much fun. I didn't really get to like thrive in that moment because I had like so much family stuff happen after that. But yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
I don't talk about it as much, but I'm on People magazine and I'm like, that's me. Like, so yeah.
That's really,
Yeah,
really
that was
cool.
crazy.
That's
You're such a good researcher.
It's a fun story.
Yeah.
Are they still married?
Mm-hmm.
Good for them.
They still married. They had a baby.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I don't know if I'll be a part of the journey again, even though they said that they would want me to be a part of future episodes that they do, other seasons. But ironically, the show now there's Seeking Sister, Seeking Brother Husband. The couple that's on there now is the couple that got me into like life coaching on a relationship element.
You're gonna
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
Those things they don't just happen like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So people are like, how do you have all these great like elements of relationship? And honestly, I learned from like studying open marriages.
Yeah.
Because even if I don't aspire to have that, there's this dynamic that you learn from them. You have to have communication to have that type of dynamic. So even if you want monogamous like marriages, there's still something that you can learn from them. So that has always been my thing, to take away that piece of learning from them.
Yeah.
So that's why I said, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And so yeah, it was really weird. I didn't talk about it a lot after that, but I'm like, I know how you do your research. I'm like, he's gonna find that out.
I think that it's, if nothing else, a lot of fun, but it also shows your depth and dimension, and different. Not everybody has the certification and the ability to marry people. So that's really cool that you have that. Another thing I wanted to ask you about: Queen's Black Gold Healing Nectar. The Queen's Black Gold Healing Nectar. Tell us what that is, and are you still making it?
Yeah, this is so deep that you mentioned this, right? Because the person that encouraged me to make that just passed away yesterday. And so I said, yo, I got to get back into that to bring honor to her, right? So I love honey. I have honey all around me. Like there's honey right in front of me right now. And so, it was something that I thought about during the pandemic, because everyone and black seed oil and separate type of items, but I was like, what if there's one item that you could just take all in one? And so that's what the Queen's Black Gold Nectar is. And so because I love bees and honey and like kind of like just the element of honey and all that it brings and the healing element, that is what birthed it in. And I said, what if I could make something for my clients where they weren't buying separate items and they could just buy one thing as a healing element? So yeah, we're gonna bring it back. Yeah.
You've studied this.
Mhm.
You understand not only, you know, health in a sense of work and psychological work or work in the mind, but also actual the body and what your body
Yeah,
needs,
yeah,
inflammation, right? So
yeah,
when you've got the Queen's Black Gold Healing Nectar, people better listen.
yeah. Yeah, and I could still make custom pieces for people, but I'm gonna roll it out again because, it's so good. I loved it myself. I was getting high off my own supply. Like, I love it.
That's good.
Yeah, I love it. It's so good. But yeah, it's really good. It was just a way for people to have like manuka honey and black seed oil and all these healing elements that you need without having to buy all these separate
Wow.
products. Yeah.
Wow. Coach Kandaka, I think that you're an amazing person.
Thank
I
you.
think the work that you do and the connections that you've done for me and connecting me with artists that you represent is awesome. The work that you do for the hip hop community behind the scenes, it is amazing. And then on top of that, everything that we talked about with the life coaching and how you help people, how you've always known in your life that you've had gifts to help people. Um,
Yeah.
Visions that you get that you're going to connect with people. All of this is amazing, and
Yeah.
I thank you for coming on the
Thank
show.
you.
I'm
Thank you
cheering
so
for
much.
you.
Thank
I
you.
wish you the best, and
Thank you so
we got work
much.
to do. We still got more work
We
to do, you know.
do. We do. We do.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Peace.